Well, it is great to be back with you for another week of Bible study as we are continuing on through our journey of the Enneagram and the intersection of the Enneagram personality test and methodology to Scripture and to your life. All of this brought to you courtesy of Christ Table. I would love, if you've not already done so, for you to drop by www.christtable.today, that URL right there. Sign up for our email list. Consider giving to Christ Table so that we can continue to bring these to you. And not only do we provide Bible studies for you, we also provide a wealth of spiritual resources. In addition to that, one of which is coming very soon to the homes of those who donate. We are going to send a box of spiritual resources for the second half of summer, for July and August, here in just a few weeks. And so anybody who's a donor to Christ Table will receive that box just free as our gift to you. No matter what your involvement with Christ Table is, though, we are grateful for you that you're a part of today's Bible study. If you'd like to find out more about this Bible study, you can visit go.christtable.today/BU. There you're going to find a link to the book that's kind of the foundation for all of this, Ian Cron's The Road Back to You, which is about the Enneagram and personality. You're also going to find there a couple of tests that you can take to identify which personality type you are. And you'll find a link to all of the Bible readings, the Bible characters for this study, and you can follow along with us, and we would love to have you join with us in that study. One other thing that I'd love to have you join us in is a conversation on this book. Chapter 8 we'll be talking about Wednesday night online in our Zoom book club. You don't have to have read all the other chapters. You can just download this book and read chapter 8, or come even if you've not read chapter 8, it'll still be helpful to you as we talk about the romantic, which is type 4, the one that we're talking about all this week. And so go.christtable.today/discuss, 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be there waiting on you and ready to discuss our personalities and the romantic personality type in specific. So let's dig in. As we come to our type for this week, the romantic type 4, we discover a lot of interesting things, and we're going to have the opportunity to look at 4 fascinating biblical characters who seem to fit well into this category. And today, in just a moment, we'll be talking about Job. Now, the Enneagram has 9 different personality types, and we have started at type 8 and gone through 9, 1, 2, 3, and now 4, and that's where we are this week. Now, all of these numbers and Enneagram, if all of this is like foreign to you, a foreign language, that's absolutely okay. So why don't I spend a moment just telling you a bit about this specific personality type, the 4. Personality type has a basic desire that the drive behind this person is to be understood and to be known for being their authentic self. And so this is the type of person who is very in touch with the deepest parts of who they are. The fear for this personality is being insignificant or being inauthentic. And so they work very hard to be who they are, even if that can cause trouble or isn't well received. And the deadly sin that often faces this personality type is envy. To look at other people, to look at what other people have, either what other people have literally, physically, like financially, but also to look at what other people have in self-confidence and envy that. And so that's something that type 4s tend to face. Now, you may be wondering, am I a 4 or am I not? I'm somebody I know, this romantic personality type. Well, you may be a type 4 if these words describe you, or if other people often use these words to describe you. Sensitive. If as a kid you were ever called a daydreamer, this may be you. If you're moody, creative, introspective, self-aware, a non-conformist, melancholy, which doesn't mean depressed. That's a very different thing than depression. Temperamental or compassionate. All of these words you may have noticed are feeling words. And so that's where we get this idea of calling the type 4 personality, a romantic, because a romantic is a feeler, not necessarily somebody who is centered all the time on romance, but somebody who is a feeler, who leads everything in life with the heart. And if that describes you, then you may be a type 4 personality. Another word for a type 4 is somebody who is an individualist, somebody who is, as we've been talking about just transparently, their authentic self. They are oftentimes motivated by a need to be special, to be understood, and to experience the depths and the breadth of their feelings. Type 4s tend to be driven by their emotions, so they can be very emotional people, not necessarily a bad thing. 4s also live in the heart triad, which means that they focus inwardly on their own depths and on their own feelings. They never want to be seen as being ordinary. They're often creative. They're often sensitive individuals. They're often, like we said, a little bit moody. And they're not afraid to sit for a while in the depths of sadness, which our individual that we're looking at today, Job, spends about 38 chapters or so of the Bible just sitting in the depths of sadness. And so Job is, without a doubt, a type 4 personality. For us also... in fact, maybe I'll just read this little sentence or two from The Road Back to You, because I think it's fascinating and applicable here. 4s feel that something important is missing from their essential makeup. They're not sure what it is that's missing, or whether it was taken from them long ago, or they had it long ago but lost it, only that there's a missing part that's nowhere to be found, and they feel like they're to blame. And this certainly describes our story for today, the character of Job. Now, I know that most of us have some context for Job, but essentially the story goes that there's a conversation between God and Satan, and a bit of a deal is made between the two of them, and Job is caught in the middle of this deal, which means that Satan ends up taking everything of value or everything of meaning that can be taken away from Job is taken away. His family is taken away from him. His livestock, all of his resources are taken away from him, which also means that his wealth is taken away from him, and then his physical health, good health, is taken away from him as well, and he's left literally with nothing but the air that he's breathing, and a wife and a few friends who are trying to help him make sense of all of this. For 4s, this is an incredible metaphor for what life often feels like, because it feels as though something has been taken from them or something is missing. This in Job happens quite literally, and the entirety of the book of Job is Job wrestling with what it means to live in a world where something is missing, or worst case scenario, that everything is missing. For somebody who thinks with their head, they can push those things down and maybe continue to at least be functional in some way in a world that is broken, and in a world where they feel just a wreck on the inside. But for somebody who's a type 4, who is in touch with their emotions, who wants to be their authentic self, whenever there is chaos on the inside, that person's not going to ignore it. They're going to sit in it and with it for as long as it takes, or maybe longer. And so we come to Job chapter 3. Verse 1, after having experienced all of this, at last Job spoke, and he cursed the day of his birth, which is a curse essentially to God himself, which is fascinating to me, because only somebody who was their authentic self would verbally curse God for what they had gone through. We might think it, but to say it in front of other people, to allow ourselves to go there and believe it for many people is difficult, not for Job and not for a type 4. He cursed the day that he was born, and he says, "Let the day of my birth be erased, and the night that I was conceived. Let that day be turned to darkness. Let it be lost even to God on high, and let no light shine on it." I'm trying to imagine a sermon or somebody who you well respect spiritually saying these things, and what you might feel. And for a ancient person, especially for an ancient person who is likely an Israelite, is a Hebrew, to say these things was really the height of offense to God. Cursing the day that you're born is essentially cursing God here for the work that he has done in you. Verse 5, "Let the darkness and utter gloom claim that day for its own. Let a black cloud overshadow it, and let the darkness terrify it. Let that night be blotted off the calendar, never again to be counted among the days of the year, never again to appear among the months. Let that night be childless, let it have no joy. Let those who are experts at cursing, whose cursing could rouse Leviathan, curse that day. Let its morning stars remain dark. Let it hope for light, but in vain. May it never see the morning light. Curse that day for failing to shut my mother's womb, for letting me be born to see all this trouble. Why wasn't I born dead?" And if you're depressed, then the text has you right where it wants you, which is getting in touch with some of the deepest feelings and deepest hurts, deepest emotions that can be experienced. Now, for those of you who enjoy poetry, you are going to eat up Job chapter 3, as well as 4, 5, 6, 7, and essentially all the way to the end, as it's just one long poetic discourse. For those of you who don't, it's like nails on a chalkboard for about 40 chapters in the book of Job. Now, the interesting thing in there, you might have noticed that word Leviathan and wondered, what is that word? The reason why it's not translated is because we just don't know what that word Leviathan is. Some people have said that it could be a dinosaur. Some people have said that it could be an elephant of some sort. It could be, some people have posited that it could be a whale or something. And when we look through the book of Job, we actually see a lot of words that we don't exactly know what they mean. And all of that to say that it is almost certain that the book of Job is the oldest book that we have in the Bible. Now, obviously, Genesis speaks of a time in the beginning, but if we're looking just simply at when something was written down and recorded for us, Job is the oldest. And so it's fascinating to me to think that the story of God doesn't really begin with the book of Genesis. The story of God begins with the book of Job, with a problem. What do we do whenever life doesn't match up to the way we think it should be? What do we do whenever we feel like something has been taken away from us? Whenever something is missing, be it Job in a very literal sense, everything that you love and everything that provides you peace and comfort has been taken away, or for many other people, what do we do whenever we can't quite put our finger on what it is, but something is missing? And I love that the Bible technically begins there and then rolls out the story of a God who continues to chase after us in those moments when we're feeling that way, whether it's Job or you or me. Job is stressed, and understandably so. And there are moments in your life when you are going to be stressed as well. For a type 4, like Job, whenever they're stressed, they repress their own needs, become exceedingly needy of reassurance and affirmation from loved ones, and crave attention. And the whole really book of Job is about Job trying to receive reassurance and affirmation from his loved ones, but not receiving it. When secure, A 4 tackles their creative ideas and makes them a reality. They're more centered and connected to the present and can feel the depths of human emotions without acting negatively on the basis of those emotions. And we see Job eventually get back to a place of security at the very end, but it takes a dramatic encounter with God himself that doesn't go the way Job perhaps thought it would be. And so if you want extra credit for today, skip from chapter 3 after you finish reading it all the way to, it's somewhere around chapter 38 in Job, but at the end, and it'll be obvious whenever God shows up on the scene. Now, at the best, the type 4 engages life with fullness and authenticity, and this is who Job is at his core, able to bear witness to pain without feeling the need to fix it. But at their worst, a 4 personality can misunderstand others, can pull away from them, and over-identify with their feelings of sadness with overbearing intensity. And so I think, it's important for us to remember, whether you're a 4 or whether you're any of the other 8 numbers, that balanced emotions are the goal. But whenever emotions are out of balance, 4s teach all of us that it's okay, and face those feelings. Dig deep into those feelings and don't be fearful of how you feel. We can all learn from 4s to be our authentic self, not just when things are going well in life, but to be our authentic self at all times. Until tomorrow, happy reading.